need to improve your executive communication skills? Maybe you are in a leadership role and you've received some hard feedback that said you need to improve your executive communication skills. Well, in this video, I'm going to share with you a couple of secrets, the fundamental things that you need to know as it relates to executive communication skills. Now, I'm only going to share three critical secrets that will help you to start developing this skill specifically. But if you want to learn more secrets, more insights that can help you in this area of your professional life, then you absolutely want to subscribe to the best, yes, I did say the best channel here on YouTube that focuses in on those very high stakes, high pressure situations. I will help you to communicate more confidently and concisely under pressure. If you want to work with me specifically to get that customized support that I am sometimes not able to give to you here on YouTube, then contact me at exciteexcellence.org. I'm here to support you any way that I can on your journey. Now, this topic is a very trending topic, especially in the world of leadership. And the secrets I want to share with you today, as I mentioned, I have a lot more, so you need to subscribe if you want to learn those. But I'm going to go over three very quickly, and then we'll talk a bit more about them when the audience joins. Now, when you think of executive communication, sometimes people make it a bit more complicated than what it really is. It is truly your ability to communicate like an executive. And I have found over the past 20 years of being in senior executive roles is that there's three aspects of executive communication that I want you to start off with first. The very first aspect of executive communication, a secret that a lot of times people have a hard time grasping that is really important, is your ability to be a public speaker. The second secret that people tend to struggle with is being concise when they are communicating. And the third and final secret that people struggle with that we're going to talk about today is your ability to communicate under pressure. So if this information sounds of interest to you, then you absolutely want to watch this video until the very end. I want to say hello and welcome to those of you joining the live today. Let me know what part of the big, beautiful world you are joining from today. And what questions or what comes up for you when you hear the word executive communication skills? Maybe you're very good at it. Maybe you are trying to improve at this skill. Put in the comments below. Let's talk about it today. For those of you just joining, I just highlighted the three secrets. Three secrets. There's a lot more I can share with you as it relates to executive communication, and we're going to dive into those in just a few moments. The very first secret that people tend to forget when they are trying to establish their executive communication skills deals with something that a lot of people take for granted because they feel like they don't want to do it. Before I go into that, let me explain to you how executive communication skills will completely change your life. How many of you have been in a situation where you wished that you would have negotiated a higher salary? Maybe you wished that you would have been a bit more vocal on a project. Maybe you wished that you would have been able to respond back to that person that was giving you a bit of a hard time. Maybe you wished that you were speaking in front of a group of people or an audience. Maybe you're at a conference. Maybe you're at a debate. Maybe you are presenting in front of a board and you just wish you were a little bit more concise in what you were saying so that you could influence the crowd. All of the things I just mentioned to you are key aspects of executive communication skills. So, the first secret I want to go into detail with you on today is that when you think of executive communication, you should also think about public speaking. Now, I know a lot of people will say public speaking is for TED Talks, it is for conferences, it is for large events. But I want to share with you that when I looked up the definition of executive communication on Google right before our live today, the definition highlights that these communication skills are used by not the average leaders. It says by the top leaders that allows them to have the ability to influence, be able to speak clearly, and be able to manage those very high stakes situations, which is the expertise and the fundamental mission of my channel. Being able to think of it a little bit differently as it relates to executive communication and public speaking helps you in many ways. When you become a public speaker, it allows you to be able to communicate your message in a very structured type of way. Now, as public speakers, and I've been a public speaker for the past 20 years, I have been, well, I accomplished the Distinguished Toastmaster Award with Toastmasters International. Literally 1% of their 358,000 members accomplished this award. So I know a bit about public speaking. But when you're speaking in front of a group of people, if you want to be able to inspire those individuals or be able to influence the audience, you absolutely are going to need public speaking skills. And if you have that, you will automatically start developing your executive communication skills. Now, I want to say hello to Bear North 2838. Hello, Bear. How you doing today? Bear says hi from Wisconsin. Hope you're doing well, and I appreciate you stopping by today. Let me know where you all are joining from the big, beautiful world today. And when you hear the word executive communication, what, what comes to mind? Put it in the comments below. Let's talk about it today. How has executive communication helped you? Maybe how has it hurt you if you did not know how to do it? I'm sharing with you secrets here that I've learned over the past 20 years. So for those of you just joining, one of the secrets, the very first secret I shared with you as it relates to how to develop your executive communication skills is to understand that you have to become a public speaker. If this is something that you feel as if you do not want to do, you are terrified of public speaking, number one, contact me at exciteexcellence.org. I will help you with that. But number two, if you're trying to improve your executive communication skills, by default, being a public speaker is a non-negotiable. This is something that you have to learn how to do. Public speaking is for your day-to-day conversations. It's not only for very large events. If you can learn how to speak in public, then you can start developing those executive communication skills that will help you to influence the audience. And that is one of the aspects of executive communication that people tend to struggle with is that they don't know how do you influence the audience. Now, for those of you watching, let me know when you have influenced the audience, what happened so the rest of our audience can learn from your insights and learn from me too. All right, let me go to the chat really quickly. We have Mindstein3. Hello, welcome. Hope you're doing well today. Says something about saying hello to Ozkan. He is your big supporter. I'm going to say that because I want to make sure I'm saying things properly, even if it's in a different language. But Ozkan, hello, welcome. Glad you are a supporter of the channel. I appreciate you being able to advocate it to everybody else. Public speaking is important. You have to learn how to speak in public if you're trying to build your executive communication skills. Non-negotiable. I hope it doesn't hurt anyone's feelings, but if you truly are trying to communicate at that higher level than your peers, you will need to learn how to speak in public. My channel heavily focuses in on that. There is over 1,000 videos. Yes, I did say that. There is over 1,000 videos on this channel that talk about high stakes, high pressure communication that will help you in these areas. Now, the second secret I want to share with you today specifically is relates to being able to communicate in a concise way. How many of you have ever been in a setting, or maybe this has happened to you personally, where you've had to communicate with a large group of people and you are timed? Maybe you have 1 minute, maybe you have 30 seconds, maybe you have 2 minutes, maybe you have 2 minutes and 30 seconds, maybe you have 5 minutes to respond, but you found yourself not being able to meet the time. Has that ever happened to any of you before? Well, I want to share with you some of the reasons why people struggle with staying on time for those type of responses when they have to respond back is because they are perhaps struggling with communicating concisely. So let me give you an example. If you have a story about a situation or a big win that you accomplished, and in that story, you talk about what happened at the beginning, the middle, and maybe what happened a little later, and what else happened, and then what else happened, and then you wrap it up to the end, you're probably going to run over time. This is the reason why it's so incredibly important to be able to partner with individuals like myself that can help you be able to develop those very concise responses and help you to start developing your own internal clock. Now, many of you may be saying, well, how do you develop an internal clock? Well, this is something that I actually help my clients with when we are in my high stakes communication intensive. That is a transformative intensive that will help you to communicate at a higher level than your peers, and definitely in these very high stakes situations. But developing your internal clock is something that is one of the most important skills that you need to have when you are impromptu speaking or thinking on your feet or responding on your feet. You have to be able to narrow down specifically what it is you need to say, make it concise, make it impactful, but then keep on time. You have to keep on time. And this is a part of executive communication. If you've interacted with anyone that has been in executive roles like myself, I worked as a C-suite executive. I've been a director for many, many years. I've been in those very friendly and contentious situations. Executives tend to say what they need to say and end it there. They're not the individuals that's going to give you a very long story about this is what happened, that is what happened. What happens or occurs in those situations is people start to over explain, they start to ramble, and guess what? That person that you may have had their attention at the very beginning is completely not listening to you, or they may be checking their phone for notifications, they may be doing something else. Being able to speak concisely is a secret that you will want to be able to start learning how to master if you want to enhance your executive communication skills. Now, if this information has been helpful to you, feel free to give the video a thumbs up. It does allow it to be reached to more individuals and be able to be seen by people that may be struggling with how they're communicating. Now, for those of you who may be new to me, I'm glad that you're here. If you're one of my amazing subscribers, you know I'm always glad to see you, friends. My mission here is to build the largest high stakes, high pressure communication content library for leaders on planet Earth. And the only way I can do that is by us as a group collectively putting our knowledge together of being in very hard and challenging situations so that when people are watching the videos or watching the replays of these videos, they are able to gain some insight and some knowledge, not just from myself, but also collectively from the group as a whole. Now, the third secret I want to share with you today, and this secret is the basis of my channel, friends. If you are trying to improve or enhance your executive communication skills, you absolutely need to learn how to communicate under pressure. How many of you have been in situations where you have been under pressure and you felt as if you communicated very well? Or maybe you did not communicate as well as you'd like to. Put it in the comments below. But this is a secret. And as I mentioned in the very beginning, I have a lot of secrets to share with you as it relates to communicating in those very high stakes, high pressure situations where your ability to have executive communication skills will make or break your case, your project, anything you're working on, your campaign, your promotion, your implementation, all of it. All of it comes down to how you communicate. But communicating under pressure is just a little bit different. Now, there's a misconception, I will say. I've heard people say this, I've had people tell me this, is that people sometimes think because you are a public speaker, that you automatically can handle yourself under pressure. Let me share with you something today. That is not always the case. I have a lot of individuals that I interact with that have been in different public speaking engagements. Maybe they have been asked to be a public speaker. Maybe they've been asked to be a keynote speaker. And maybe they've been in Toastmasters. I love Toastmasters, by the way. That I became a distinguished Toastmaster for that reason. But things are a bit different when you are being asked to speak, people want you to speak, compared to a situation where you may be speaking and people do not want to hear what you have to say. That is when you are under pressure. And just because someone has been a public speaker, they've been a keynote, they've been on stages, they've done TEDx talks, that does not mean they know or have the ability to be able to handle a situation when it goes under pressure. Now, most leaders, majority of leaders, regardless of what sector you are in, private sector, public sector, government sector, they typically know how to communicate. Majority of the time. Let me know in the comments below if you have some favorite leaders that you absolutely enjoy listening to them communicate. Put it in the comments below. But when the conversation goes under pressure, as I say, when maybe you have someone that disagrees with you, not in a polite way, but vehemently disagrees with you. Maybe you have someone who is asking you a question that may perhaps trigger you to respond in a highly emotional way, which automatically takes your executive presence away. Maybe you're in a situation where someone is trying to debate you or argue with you, and you just don't know how to handle those situations. This, friends, is the reason why being able to communicate under pressure is a secret of being able to have executive communication skills. As I mentioned, when I looked at the definition of executive communication skills, it specifically talks about different aspects of communication. And one of the aspects they mentioned is your ability to communicate in high stakes environments. And I will share with you that there's a lot of people out there, and many of you probably know who people out there that talk about this. They have been in those bubbles, I would say, and there's nothing wrong with being in a bubble, okay? I'm not gonna say that just because someone's been on TEDx or they have been on keynote speeches and etc., that they're at a place where they are in a bubble. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes you need real world experience from someone that has been in those under pressure situations where maybe they are struggling with those situations. Now, I want to specifically mention that this is something that we talk about here on the channel, and I want to make sure that you're in a good place to be able to master these skills. I hope this helps you, and I will see you